Practice squad, PUP list, and special teams play. That's what we're going to be discussing in this video. Now after the nice long weekend, let's dive right back into it. This is going to be a hard and fast video, just like how I did your mom this weekend. Go ahead and roll the intro. Welcome to Detroit! Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Hat and Beard. In case you're new here, make sure and hit subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future content, and go ahead and hit like on your way out the door because it goes a long way in helping me grow. You all already know that. Let's get into it. We're talking a little practice squad. As you guys know, the NFL teams are allowed to keep 16 players on a practice squad throughout the season. This gives them the ability to have a little bit more depth and development talent, but also allows players not only to get a paycheck, but the opportunity to be signed away onto other teams when they have necessary needs. You know, it gives them a little bit more leeway and ability to, further their career. So it's a good thing to an extent. Some of these players, though, I'm not really happy about. Let's get into the practice squad players. First and foremost, I'm not reading these in any particular order. It's not like a hierarchy or nothing. It just happens to be the players that I wrote down. We ended up keeping Garrett Griffin, who was a free agent tight end that we ended up releasing early on in the preseason. Dan Campbell's a little obsessed with tight ends. I mean, he's a former tight end in the NFL, and it's not only do we have 4 on the active roster, but we kept 2 on the practice squad, Garrett Griffith being one of them. We ended up keeping Savion Smith, who can't cover anything. I mean, that dude is an awful DB. Yeah, he's 6'1" and can lay the lumber down, but bro, unless you're going to put on like 40 pounds and decide to play linebacker, what good does that do me as a defensive back, dude? You can't cover nothing. He's trash. I don't know why we kept him around. I do like the signing of A.J. Parker to the practice squad. I felt that A.J. Parker was actually in a strong competition. Maybe he got beat up by my boy Chase Lucas, but I thought A.J. Parker was in the running to maybe make the 53-man roster. I think he's a better cover corner than Will Harris. I honestly think Will Harris over the 3 weeks of the preseason, his stock fell terribly. Not only did Jeff Okudah surpass him on the depth chart, but I mean, Jeff Okudah has more talent than Will Harris, but I really thought that A.J. Parker was going to end up snagging one of those 53-man roles. But I am glad that we kept him on the practice squad. Again, that gives us a good competition to go against all week long, and as well as, keeps him around because I think he's a good locker room presence, and I think that by the end of the season, A.J. Parker will probably be on our active roster. It gives us more depth to play with, barring any injury. Preseason superhero, Thumb Kennedy, he got signed to the practice squad because, why not? He's a practice squad preseason hero. Everybody likes Thumb Kennedy. I like Thumb Kennedy. I'm kind of surprised, but I'm not surprised. I thought he would get signed to another organization because he showed out in the preseason. Thumb Kennedy's skill set is really limited when you draw a comparison to other wide receivers. He's not a special teams player. He doesn't have blazing speed. He's not super huge. He doesn't have a great vertical. Yeah, he can play the slot and he can catch the ball, which is, that's your number one job as a wide receiver is to catch the friggin' ball, and Thumb Kennedy can catch the ball, but, not well enough to be on the active roster, at least according to this coaching administration. And again, just my opinion, I would assign him to the active roster, but my opinion doesn't matter. Clearly, I'm just a YouTuber, and these are head coaches of a professional football organization. But I do like that Thumb Kennedy has been brought back around and kept on the practice squad and in-house for the organization. Justin Jackson, I'm really happy about the Justin Jackson bringing back onto the practice squad. I originally assumed that Justin Jackson would be our 4th running back and make it to the active roster. I discussed in the video about the roster cuts that I thought Justin Jackson was maybe had a gentleman's agreement with Brad Holmes, giving him the opportunity to sign with a different team. And, after he cleared waivers, maybe he just decided to come back home, here and get a paycheck, which I'm glad about because he is an athlete. When you see him run in space, he utilizes the field well. He has good vision out on the field, and he also has a return element. So having him in the organization is a huge benefit because it gives us more depth to play with, barring any injuries, deactivation of players. You can activate off the practice squad, elevate Justin Jackson to that number 4 role if need be. Again, I think that he complements our backfield skill set because, Swifty is a little bit more shifty, and he's going to be catching a lot of passes. I actually have him going over 500 yards receiving. I expect him to hit 1,000 yards rushing and 500 yards receiving. That's as long as Swifty stays shifty and can stay healthy. Jay Willie is obviously your more physical bruising back, but a huge locker room presence. I'm honestly kind of surprised that Jay Willie doesn't have a C on his chest because of his leadership ability, and he's really like the embodiment of Dan Campbell. Craig Reynolds is obviously not as shifty as Swifty, but he's Also not as physical as Jay Willie. He's a little bit more of an elusive all-around polish back with a slight more bruising upside and a return game element. So when you add in a Justin Jackson, more of an elusive pass-catching back who has good natural running ability and also adds depth to the special teams, side of the ball, because special teams have to be special if you want to win games. I thought he complemented the other three backs well and expected him to make the fourth man on the 53-man roster. We elected to not go that decision, so at least he's back in-house on the practice squad again. Justin Jackson, I think, is a very underrated athlete. Clearing waivers, we were able to bring back wide receiver Maurice Alexander, and I'm glad to see that he at least is being able to stick around. I thought he was a dynamic kick returner, not necessarily the most standout of a wide receiver, but I think he averaged like 34 yards on a kick returner in the preseason, which is outstanding if you can start your field position that far along the field. I mean, he's explosive. I'm glad that he's on the practice squad. I expect to see him possibly elevated 53-man roster eventually throughout the regular season, maybe a few stints on and off. I also expect with his kick return ability, him to probably be one of the players who is poached away earlier by another organization than, say, Thumb Kennedy would. The biggest shake my head signing to the practice squad was the Lions bringing back old Jared Davis. I think everybody knows how I feel about Jared Davis. I guess the guy just really likes to play football. I mean, dude, you're washed, bro. You're washed. I'm sorry, but you're washed. Unless you are anticipating making a position change to more of a rush edge, because he can put some pressure on the quarterback. He's got a decent first step off the line. He's just terrible in coverage, man. You're terrible in coverage. You're consistently out of position. I don't think you quite understand the scheme that Dan Campbell and company are trying to run defensively. I just don't think it complements his play style very well. We brought him back to the practice squad. Clearly, the coaching staff likes what he does. Maybe he's a good locker room guy. I don't understand it. I won't understand it. I don't want to understand it. Jared Davis, practice squad, neato, dude. When I was discussing Garrett Griffith earlier, I mentioned that we kept another tight end on the practice squad, and that's the pride of San Jose State, Derek Deese. Nuts. Everybody likes Derek Deese nuts. Who couldn't like Derek Deese nuts? He's an athlete, so I guess cool. More athletes, the better. Gives you more of a dynamic look in the practice squad, for your defense and offense to go against. He's young. If Hawk doesn't stay healthy, or gosh forbid we lose another tight end, it gives us more depth to play with. Coaches really like him. Dan Campbell's a tight end guy, very, very big on tight ends. I'm not necessarily disappointed with keeping Derek Deese nuts around. He's on the roster, or he's on the practice squad at least. I don't expect him to be elevated to the 53-man roster, barring any significant injury. I mean, if you lose 3 tight ends and you get very loose tight ends, maybe Derek Deese nuts will get elevated to the 53-man roster. But, he's also in competition with Garrett Griffin and the potential return of Jason Kabinda, which means we'd probably have to deactivate one of our other tight ends, and that would further bury Derek Deese nuts down the practice squad roster. A couple of unnecessary, I don't want to say unnecessary, but a couple of just like generic defensive signings to the practice squad. We brought Bruce Hector back to the practice squad. He was in a mild competition, and then we signed Anthony Pittman to the practice squad. I was a little surprised that he got cut from the active roster, because he's a sensational special teams player. He gets down the field well. He makes good open field tackles. He, again, could be a potential positional, activation, deactivation, bring him up for a game or two, let him fill in where there might be an injury. Maybe Derek Barnes, really shows that he can't cover anyone, and we just maybe move him back to the practice squad and elevate Pittman. I don't know yet. I don't hate the Pittman presence on the team. I actually kind of like it, but again, him and Bruce Hector are both kind of a very vanilla. They're there. They're going to give you a little bit of competition in practice, but we're not expecting them to be elevated to the 53-man roster, let alone, be like a defensive MVP player. We kept a pair of tackles. We kept Dan Skipper, which I'm not surprised that we re-signed Dan Skipper to the practice squad. We all kind of assumed that he wasn't going to make the 53-man roster because, again, Matt Nelson kind of had that swing tackle position locked up. I like keeping Dan Skipper around. He's got some game experience. He's not necessarily the most dominant tackle in the game. The big surprising sign to the practice squad, Obinna Eze, because, not only have we watched him just eat dirt all preseason. There's an argument to be made that he gave up on a block and cost David Blough a position with the Lions organization, be it on the practice squad or on the 53-man roster, because Eze he couldn't do his one job, and that is to literally just get in front of your man. I mean, he couldn't even get in front of his man and let David Blough just get obliterated. And that's when you see he got banged up real harsh against Pittsburgh. That's when you see him, after getting just creamed by Easy letting up on a block, Easy going easy on a block. David Blough just blew that knee out, and he's running around on half a tire now. But hey, David Blough got signed to the Minnesota practice squad, so at least somebody's got hope in him. And aw shucks, gee willikers, David Blough. I hope the best for him, man. He seems like a stand-up guy. Not necessarily the best quarterback in the league, but he seems like an alright cat. We also, for some reason, signed Aldrich Rojas to the practice squad because, well, as we'll talk about in the special teams segment of the video, evidently Riley Patterson wasn't good enough to beat out Austin Siebert, so I think the coaching staff has a little bit of uneasiness towards Austin Siebert, which is why we kept Aldrich Rojas on the practice squad. I just don't see a reason to keep an extra kicker unless you're just not 100% confident in the kicker that you have. And if that were the case, you should have just kept Riley Patterson. But again, what do I know? I'm just yelling at a camera and not the coach of an NFL organization. Further adding more depth to the running back position, we brought Jermar Jefferson back to the practice squad. He was in competition for the fourth running back spot with Justin Jackson and Godwin Igwebuike, who Godwin Igwebuike has not been signed to any squads. He's just a free agent out there right now. We signed Jermar Jefferson back, though. You guys know that he started the Pittsburgh game with the ones. I think the coaches wanted to see what they had, realized that he is trash. I don't understand why we brought him back. I think we maybe should have kept Godwin Igwebuike because he adds a little bit more of a dynamic running back perspective in that he contributes in special teams. Jermar Jefferson contributes at the buffet. And then the final signing to the practice squad, I just realized this morning, so my apologies to your mother while I got furious this morning and realized that the Lions brought back Tim Boyle to the practice squad. I don't like Tim Boyle. I think Tim Boyle's hot garbage. I think Tim Boyle needs to stay in Pittsburgh and sell hot dogs to the people of Pittsburgh. I don't understand this. I don't know why we brought him back to the practice squad. He's not very good. I mean, he seemed better as a coach calling the plays during the players ran practice. Obviously, Tim Boyle there is, he must be something special in the eyes of Dan Campbell, because I don't get it, man. Moving on from the practice squad, let's dabble our toes in some active roster play. Let's go ahead and look at the special teams players. Now, when I say special teams players, I mean the special teams unit, not the returners, not the blockers. I'm talking about the kicker, the punter, and the long snap. In case you guys don't know, yes, there is a designated position where guys are a specialist in long snapping. That's how Don Muhlbach made his career forever. Don Muhlbach is the man. It's hard for me to imagine anyone doing long snapping for the Lions other than Don Muhlbach. He was great, but anyway, our long snapper this year will be Scott Daly. Our punter will be the best punter in the league, the field relocation specialist for the Detroit Lions. Jack Fox is the man. Jack Fox has been the best, most dominant punter in the league since he entered as a rookie. I know it's silly to be like, hey, we got the best punter, but sometimes, the punter can make or break your day for you, man. If you can relocate the team to the opposite end of the field, that's going to be awesome for you, man. I know it's just a punter, dude, but special teams has to be special. And if you can have a special punter, your special teams will be special. So it's awesome that Jack Fox is our punter. And then you heard me talk about it a little bit earlier. I've kind of been griping about it all preseason. Austin Siebert's our kicker. Maybe it was a money thing. Maybe his contract was a little bit heavier to get rid of and move on from him than Riley Patterson. But man, I thought Riley Patterson did such a bang-up job last year, man. That's why Jacksonville went out and claimed him off of waivers, because the dude's sweet. He was sweet in Memphis. He was sweet last year when he came in to fill in for, oh yeah, Austin Siebert when he hurt himself. YouTuber, not coach. What do I know? You know what I'm saying? Alright, the final segment of the video, guys, we're just going to briefly discuss about, this is for the normies that don't necessarily follow the NFL, so go ahead and click off this video if you even made it this far. We're going to talk about the PUP list and the IR list. PUP list stands for physically unable to perform, okay? That means that you are on the roster, but right now you have an injury that designates you so that you don't necessarily have to go to the IR, which we'll talk about in a second, but you'll go to the PUP list, meaning that you have 4 weeks that you have to be inactive, okay, and then there's a 21-day window that you can practice with the team and have it not count against your 53-man roster. So almost like a condensed training camp for these PUP list players, okay? And on the PUP list this year, we have, obviously we knew J-Mo was going to be on the PUP list as he's recovering from the torn ACL that he sustained in the national championship game. We've talked about J-Mo before. Anything that J-Mo contributes is a bonus, okay? I'm not hanging my hat on any JMO production. I'm not establishing him as a number one wide receiver. I'm trying to maintain a realistic expectation in that whatever JMO can do is purely bonus. I've talked numerous times about Jason Kabinda. Our fullback will be on the PUP list. Hopefully he can come back. Right now we kept 4 tight ends because we're probably going to roll somebody in the H-back spot. I imagine Brock Wright will be designated in the majority of the snaps in the H-back role until Kabinda can come back. Again, Jason Kabinda, we seen him a few years ago with the Raiders on Hard Knocks, and then this year he wasn't shown very much because again he was on the PUP list. I like Jason Kabinda. I think he's a Dan Campbell guy. He's a bruising, just road grader of a fullback with enough athletic upside. You've seen him catch a touchdown last year. I think he ran in a touchdown as well. He's a good fullback, man. So it'll be good to have him back from the PUP list. We all know Romeo Okwara is on the PUP list. Again, he tore his Achilles last year. If Romeo Okwara is able to come back and even be 75 to 80% of what he was pre-injury, that will be a massive boost to our defense. It'll give another piece for Aaron Glenn to stick in there and slide around and move wherever he wants. A little hutch over here and a little Okwara over here. You know, it'll be a good thing when Julian Okwara comes back, as long as he's able to be even a shadow of what he once was. But he's on the PUP list. Josh Pascal, our second round pick, the defensive end, he's also on the PUP list. We knew that was going to happen. That's no surprise there. The big surprise for PUP list was Jerry Jacobs, and he's actually been a little vocal about this because I think he was hoping to be back come the regular season again. He had a knee injury that ended his season last year. Undrafted rookie free agent, came in and balled out. Just a diamond in the rough. Huge fan of Jerry Jacobs, but he will be out for at least the first 4 weeks and then 21 days where he will need to play himself back into shape on the practice, or in practice and at the facility. But I expect Jerry Jacobs to come back and contribute when he comes back. You'll probably see a rotation of Amani 2-4, future comeback player of the year this year, Jeff Okudah, and you'll probably see Jerry Jacobs be in the top rotation amongst DBs, slide him right into that nickel or dime spot. And further push Will Harris down the roster. I don't expect Mike Hughes to really be a contributing member of the defense. He's more of a special teams guy. And unfortunately, when Jerry Jacobs comes back, you'll probably see Chase Lucas further suppress down the depth chart and maybe even move back to the practice squad. But either way, Jerry Jacobs, unfortunate that you're on the PUP list, but it's probably for the benefit because, dude, we all love you and we want you to be as healthy as you can be when you return and make our defense not as sucky as it's going to be. We do have one player on IR, and that's running back Greg Ball. Nobody missed you. Nobody even knew you were there, dude. I'm sorry. That's unfortunate. And you never want to see a man get hurt. You never want to see an athlete get hurt and miss a whole season. This could have been your breakout year. Who knows, man? It's unfortunate. Greg Ball will be our only player starting the season on the injured reserve. I should note that injured reserve means that you are designated from playing. You're basically done for the whole year. You're not eating up the roster spot. You're on the team, but you can't contribute. You're hurt. You're not going to come back. I think there is a limit. I think players can come back after like 6 weeks. I'm not exactly sure, but typically the IR means you're donezo, dude. Place Greg Ball on IR. He was hurt. That way you don't have to. Doesn't count against the cut or the final roster number. So IR is just a designation spot there. Now you normies know. So now that I just went through our practice squad, special teams, and injured reserve PUP list players in autistic detail, I think that's going to bring it to the end of the video. In case you haven't already, make sure and hit subscribe so we can grow this thing and slap the like button on the way out the door. I'd really appreciate that. Now, I'm going to call your mom and set up a date for tomorrow night. We'll talk to you guys later. See ya.
Look at this sorry, miserable, squashed thing. Can anybody tell me what's wrong with this picture?